Hey everybody, old guy here. Have something to show you under the car. If I can get down here and show you what I'm talking about. Take a look at this under the car. You believe this? Cobwebs. Cobwebs on a sports car between the valance and the tire. No, that's not right. That's disgusting. Let's get this baby back on the flight line.
All right, here we are back on our 1964 Triumph TR4, which is currently headless. We have our freshly rebuilt cylinder head right here with nice new valve job. Everything is ready to go. So we are super pumped to get this back on today. It's a really beautiful day. First thing first, we're going to be working on getting the kind of mating surfaces for the head on the engine block cleaned up just a little bit. Getting residue from the old head gasket and any of that gunk out of there. And then we'll slip the head on and I don't know, we'll see, we'll go from there. Alright, so now for probably one of the most controversial things we're going to do today. I can already see the comments now. I can't wait. Listen, if you are rebuilding or replacing the head on your Triumph TR4 or a similar car, buy new head studs and use new head studs. By all means, that is absolutely the cheapest insurance you can have that everything's going to go smooth and okay. Now let's get to what we're doing. These are not new head studs, and the reason for that is 3 of them we were unable to remove from the block, and now that is using just some standard means, not being too hard on them, because we were concerned we might have to reuse them, so we didn't get the torch out, we didn't do that kind of stuff. We decided to leave them. They all appear to be in very good condition. You can run a nut up and down the threads nicely. That's usually a good sign that they haven't been stretched too much. And the other thing is, if you are going to reuse any of the old studs, in my opinion, it's important to keep them together as a set because they all kind of stretch the same. You don't want to mix new and old. So for that reason, we're using the original head studs. But we do have all new nuts for the tops of the studs and hardened washers. That's also pretty important. All right, let's get to some head gasket business here. So this is kind of not really a fancy head gasket. This is kind of the standard TR4 head gasket that's available from a lot of suppliers. It's like copper over top of a sort of shim steel kind of thing, I think. I don't know. It's not solid copper. There's definitely like a core inside of there. And now there's a couple of things on the head gasket that a lot of people think different things of. First off, some people say like the originals were stamped with like top and bottom. This one doesn't have any kind of marking like that on it. But we kind of examined like our old one, and it looks to me like the seams, you can see here, there's like a rolled seam on one side of the gasket versus the other one is just flat. The way our head was when we took it off, the rolled seam part was facing down towards the bottom end of the engine. The flat part was up, and you can see that on the old gasket. We didn't have any actual head gasket problems with our old head gasket, so we're gonna just use the same method. Part 2 of head gasket info is whether or not you need to use sealant on here. Some say you do, some say you don't. We are kind of leaning towards not. So we have bought a couple things, but we're gonna do it dry. Kind of the advantage being if we do need to take this off again, the sealant's gonna make it really hard to separate everything in the future. So we're gonna do it dry. A lot of people have had success either way, so your mileage may vary. See how ours turns out and draw your own opinion. We're gonna go ahead and get this on. We've got everything ready to go over here. So there's just two things we need to do before we put this head on. We need to slip the tappets, our brand new tappets, down into the block. Those look really nice, so we'll be doing that. And then just get everything cleaned up real nice on the head and the face and just make sure everything's ready to go. And then we'll be putting the head on. Could have helped.
Is this what you're looking for?
Yes. Nice work there, muscle man.
We are down. Man.
All right, we're getting our cylinder head nuts on. These are the nuts here. These are very hard, special nuts. They cost like $6 a piece or something. There is like an up and a down to them. You can see one side's kind of flat here, and one side is curved on the edge here, and this flat side goes down against the cylinder head itself. So all right, so all of our nuts are now down and just snug, took the slack out of them with just a regular wrench. But now we're gonna switch to the torque wrench. We need 100 foot-pounds on each of these. There's a very specific tightening sequence. Don't quote me on this. I believe it's 1, 2, 3 foot. Well, whatever. It's something like that. You bounce around to make sure that you get that right. That is in the manual. So we're gonna be switching over to our torque wrench here. Just click torque wrench. We're also gonna use the beam torque wrench to kind of calibrate this and make sure it's right. And then we're also going to take 3 steps at it. We're going to start by setting the torque wrench to 40 foot-pounds. Then we're going to go up to 80, and then we're going to do our final 100. So 3 steps to get from where they're at right now, which is just snug, up to our final torque. So here we go. All right, so our head is torqued down. Let me tell you, 100 foot-pounds is a lot of foot-pounds. Is that a lot of foot-pounds, Dad?
That's a lot of foot-pounds.
Yeah, feels pretty abusive. So yeah, but all of our head studs held up nicely. So everything seems okay. So now, that's exciting. Now we just got to get all the rest of this crap attached. So Dad's putting in all of the push rods here. We actually kept track. We put a little tape on and numbered each one when we took them out. So they're putting them all in the exact same holes again. Not sure if that's important or not, just seems like a good idea. And then we'll put our rocker assembly on top of there. And then we'll start buttoning up all the manifolds, the cooling system, everything. Yeah, hopefully this is the easy part, but hold off on that. Here we go. All right, we just dropped our rocker assembly into place. You see, you gotta loosen up the valve adjustments all the way when you put them on. Mentions that in the manual, and then you also have to kind of get the push rods lined up with the rocker itself. And once it's all in place, now we've got them all lined up. We can tighten down the 4 bolts on the posts here that hold that down. All right, so we got our rocker assembly in place here. Before we go bolting everything back on here, we're gonna go ahead and get the valve clearances set here with the engine cold. So there needs to be 10 thousandths of an inch between the top of the valve and the rocker arm right here when the valve is fully up position. So to do that, you need 10 thousandths feeler gauge. 10 thousandths is the correct clearance. You need a 1/2 inch wrench and a flat screwdriver. And what we're gonna do is work through the valves using something called the rule of 9. So we're gonna turn the engine clockwise, and when the first valve is all the way down, or almost all the way down, then we know that the 8th valve is all the way up and ready to adjust. So 1 plus 8 equals 9. So then you go to the next one, valve number 2, make that go all the way down. And in order to get 9, you go over here to 7, and that one's ready to adjust. And you just keep working from one end all the way back, turning the engine clockwise and doing one valve at a time until you're done. Here we go. All right, so now with 2 done, we're gonna wait till 3 goes all the way down. Dad's got a ratcheting wrench down there on the crank pulley. Oh, here we go. That's good.
I think that's
it. So now you see 3. It's all the way down. 9 minus 3 is 6. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and adjust this valve right here, which is nice and loose right now. Alright, valve clearances are set. We're gonna start putting the intake and exhaust manifolds back on. We got some fresh gaskets, some fresh nuts for there, and we'll get that all put on. Get her buttoned up. All right, that's getting pretty much buttoned up at this point. We got both of our intake and exhaust manifolds on. Those are really, really fun bolts to access, especially the ones underneath. They also, by the way, if you do have to take your manifolds off, make sure when you put it back on, you put the ones that are down underneath that seem like the hardest to get to, put those on first, because you can't get them on once the manifolds are on. So we got to do it twice. Kind of quickly running out of daylight here today, but one thing we want to do just to give us some time to set is get the thermostat housing mounted back on here, because we're going to put some sealant on that gasket to make sure it seals up nice, and then it'll have a week to kind of sit and seal up all good so we don't have any issues with leaking there. Get the cooling system buttoned up. I don't know if we're going to get to the fuel system yet today. And then, yeah, then we'll just replace fluids and yeah, we'll see what happens. But that'll probably be next week. So, yeah, for now we're just going to get that housing on and see how far we can get. All right, well, we didn't quite get it running today, but everything's back together, ready to go. So I'll drink to that.
We'll get it running. Some odds and ends left to do. I don't know, just hit it again, get fluids in it, everything hooked up, get fluids in it, and be careful about fire up and go from there. But I have a feeling our compression is going to be a lot better than 30 PSI on cylinders 3 and 4. So, I don't know. You know, in retrospect, we knew about this compression problem, but we kind of wanted to get after the interior because it's winter time and so on and so forth, working into spring. So we went after the interior. Now we go after the engine. Maybe we should have done it the other way around, but coulda, woulda, shoulda. We got it.
We'll find out next time on WEGS Garage.
Next week.
Thanks for watching.